This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order of the Easthampton Council on Aging. It is 11:13, a little bit late, but we'll try to go fast. Some of us, Chuck, have to work. The rest of us are glad you're working, so continue to pay into our Social Security.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Chuck. We'll begin with approval of the minutes. You all should have received a copy of the minutes from Louise. Louise?
Okay. Not sure whether this comes before or after the minutes, but I was going to ask if we can do roll calls.
Sure.
Then we won't have this problem in the future. Because especially, first, because we should do Robert's rules, all that. Second, because Zoom does not actually, it only shows the speaker, so there is no record.
Yeah, so roll call for a vote, you're saying?
No, roll call at the beginning, present. The council, like a lot of committees, do it.
Okay, we can definitely do that. So Tom Brown, I'm here. Joe?
Joe Banis, I'm here.
Louise?
Here.
Chuck Connor?
Here.
And Stan Diamond. Great, thank you very much. Okay, again, you should have all received a copy of the minutes. I'm gonna have to try to remember to do that, Louise, every meeting. Thank you, Louise, for doing the minutes. Any questions or additions or deletions for the meetings, for the minutes, I'm sorry. Joe?
There were some minor technical things that I had contacted Louise about. And those are the only things that I picked up. And I think she had the meeting starting after the meeting was ended, so.
Okay,
And I found another one when I was fixing yours. Somebody's name was misspelled.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I actually had the revised minutes up, but in opening 20 Zoom, I lost them.
okay.
Oh, well.
So, I mean, they're similar.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Joe?
Second.
Stan, second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Good, great. Thank you all very much. Public speak. Anyone who would like to speak about an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, great.
Can I,
Financial-
Tom,
Yes,
just to make a note that we understand the public didn't have a chance to speak because I only just sent today's Zoom link to the clerk.
so if any folks should jump on during the meeting who wish to speak, we'll allow it at that time. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Financial report, Cindy.
Okay. I am just double checking to make sure Easthampton neighbors, I did send them the new link. Sorry, just wanted to make sure I checked that
No problem.
because they're on the agenda today. I have nothing to say other than that I'll have a lot more to say next month after I have the budget meetings with the treasurer, the auditor, and the mayor. So all that's happening this month in rapid pace. And then in regard to FY22, our current year, basically since I met with you last, has been learning how was the budget put together for this year and do any modifications need to be made. And the former director is going to share some information with me so that we can best use the formula grant that still hasn't come from the state, but should come in February, the $40,000, which is primarily used for our activities. So just to note quickly that the city funds don't pay for the activity coordinator or any of the activities that we do, such as classes and special trips and things like that, that comes out of the formula grant and out of donations. and fees. So right now, what I'm trying to do is figure out for the rest of the year, how much should we put into classes that we have to pay instructors for versus making sure people can get here and making sure people can schedule events, because then we could put some funds into clerical and driver. That's what was originally planned. But if we don't need to do that and we can put more funds into either instructors or something else, that's what I'm grappling with right now. Because no formal budget was given for this formula grant that's coming. It seems that it was planned mid-year. That fiscal year is January. Well, there isn't a formal fiscal year for that $40,000, and it doesn't match the city's fiscal year. So there's some flexibility, and I'm trying to figure out what the best use is, and I'll be able to report to you better in March. So that's
Great.
the only thing really to note today.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pat's not here. I did speak with him briefly, and he did attend a Highland Valley meeting, so we'll look for an update from him at our next meeting.
Tom,
Yes,
I can report on that
perfect.
just quickly.
Yes.
So Pat happened to be in a meeting with them when I spoke to Pat and said that we're getting a bunch of calls of people asking for referrals to home care or personal care or other resources. And some of them say that they have been recently served by Highland Valley or lost their caregiver. And the result of that is that Patrick immediately talked with the executive director of Highland Valley, and Highland Valley is setting up a meeting with us for this week, very responsive, to talk about their programs and services and what we should do when people call us for help when it's related to trying to get in touch with Highland Valley. And Pat facilitated that.
Great, great. For the record, thank you, Pat. Okay, director's report. And I don't know, Cindy, if that just leads you into old and new business or if there's other things, but go for it. Cindy, it's all yours.
Okay, so I won't talk about Easthampton neighbors and volunteers, except to say that we want to restart our companion driver program, our companion home shopping and delivery program, and also bring on additional volunteers to help with reception and transportation dispatch. So I'm spending a lot of time recruiting volunteers, publicizing that, working with the Retired Senior Volunteer Program. Linda from Outreach and Anne in reception is going to pitch in with getting that off the ground. As you know, we had a volunteer coordinator who left during the pandemic, and that position was not replaced. I'm not sure if the plan was to replace that position or if that just got absorbed into everything else. So we're just trying to patchwork it together with staffing, the volunteer coordination. But it's very important to do because we have too many rides that we can't satisfy and grocery lists that we can't shop for just using current staffing. So we're working on that and hoping to launch all of that in March, and encouraging people who are interested in driving their neighbors to appointments or grocery shopping for their neighbors to get in touch with us. Also, we have the Easthampton Senior Center Bingo, which is their official title. They were the volunteer or outside group offering bingo at the senior center, and our agreement with them that we were making for them to return in March when we reopen fell through. And so for now, we won't have any bingo at the senior center. From what I understand, I think more than one group in a city can have a bingo license. So if anybody in the community is interested in learning about offering bingo at the senior center, they can contact us.
Do you want to get into any more information about that agreement following
Yes,
through?
sure. So what I learned when I first came here is that there was an outstanding need to have an agreement between bingo and the senior center. So that agreement was unsigned, and there were certain issues that needed to be resolved. So I worked to try to resolve them, and to have them sign that agreement and move forward. But that didn't work out. And the points of the agreement were that the bingo hours should be adhered to, which would give us a chunk of time in the morning to offer other programs and services and have the space and the parking to be able to do that. For the bingo group to enforce COVID precautions for their own members so that the staff wouldn't have to do it and then be intrusive. And that bingo was responsible for putting their chairs away so that the staff could just focus on putting away the tables and cleaning up the trash. Sorry. Oh. Okay. Did you all hear that?
Yes,
I'm sorry. I mean, what Linda just said when she came in the door.
I did not hear that, no.
Okay,
No.
there's an emergency. What do you want to do?
What kind of an emergency?
I need to go find out.
Oh, why don't
I mean,
we
I kind of know, but I need to find out the extent of it.
put the meeting on hold for 5 minutes?
I think it's going to take more than 5 minutes. Okay, well, let me just, to close that agenda item, that would be it. And then I know that we had under old business an update on COVID precautions, an update on Manchester hardware. Under new business, Easthampton Neighbors was going to present, and we're going to do, also old business is the senior tax work-off report. Could you guys do the senior tax work-off report and feedback without me while I go see what's going on?
Yes, definitely.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe, you want to start that off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Let me ask one quick question. Is Teresa O'Connor online somewhere? Is she?
Yeah,
She's
yes,
with us?
I'm online. Can you hear me?
Oh, is that? Oh, I didn't recognize.
It says Kathy Schweitzer. She's my friend. She helped me with the Zoom connection. Otherwise, I would not have it. But
I thought you were trying to fake me out here.
That's my
Okay.
other identity.
Okay. I can, what I'm going to do is have, in terms of Louise and Stan and Chuck and Tom, you guys have gotten a copy of that. It's like
Yeah.
almost a little over 3 pages.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys have seen the copy of that report. So let me just say that the way this report came about is I was meeting with JP from the city council and with Jen Gallant, who's the treasurer. And those were people who had been part of the old senior tax work-off committee. And JP sort of put a hint down that a status report would be helpful. So I basically that's why I pulled it together. And so there's much more detail on it than normally I would give if it were just us. But, you know, I figured maybe they need a little more detail than that. So, all right, let me just run through this pretty quick. Basically,
Joe,
yes, Louise.
no, interrupting, but I know I've got questions about is it public when it's public? We're discussing under the open meeting law. I don't want to get way into it, but we're discussing something that was not part of the agenda and sent out. And second, if JP wants to use this or it's going to be useful, And I get that same feeling from watching the when I watch council meetings.
Mhm.
That, well, you might want to do a report that's open for public consumption, and that mostly means that we're not using personal names.
Okay, Louise,
I
if,
mean,
I did this for a customer of one. And if we should just, if it was a mistake for me to send it for informational purposes to you guys, it wasn't my intent that we discuss it and take decisions on it. This is strictly for informational use.
And Louise, just to clarify, it is on the agenda.
And it is on the agenda.
It is on the agenda. And I agree, we wouldn't put this document up and share the details. This is meant to be sort of an update on how the program is working. And Teresa was kind enough as a volunteer to come on and give sort of a personal testimony, if you will, about how it's working from her end. So she's here voluntarily to provide that information. And again, it is on the agenda. I know it's abbreviated, but it's STWO update on the agenda.
no, I know, but it's been shared with us all via email. I'll consult with Barbara after. I'm not sure I'm flagging it, okay?
I think you could definitely double check with Barbara. I'm fairly certain that it's okay for the board to share information only via email, but not to deliberate and not to do anything that's going to affect a vote by email. So if we had a pressing issue that we were going to vote on, and I was using email for the benefit of trying to get you all to vote a certain way, that would not be something that would be legitimate. But I'm fairly certain, I was going to say 99% sure, but I won't go that far. I'm fairly certain it's perfectly okay to share information via email, but double check with Barbara for us, please.
Yep.
Okay, Joe.
Okay. Long story short is that for this first year of the senior tax work-off, we had 9 applicants, or actually, technically we had 10 applicants and we had 9 positions that were possible, and 9 of the people who volunteered were placed into those 9 available positions. We had one other possible position where we had an individual, the 10th volunteer was tentatively identified as being a placement, but the problem on the department end was that the department could not identify a potential supervisor for that person. So as a result, that position was withdrawn. So long story short is we started with 9 volunteers, and you can see that there's one table in the report has the name of the volunteer, their job title, the department they work in, and the supervisor that oversees their activities. And the main reason I put that in there is because we have one volunteer who's basically sort of split between 2 departments, and so for that reason, she has sort of 2 different supervisors. It's like somebody for admin support and somebody for operational stuff, but that's the only job that's unusual like that. Okay, let me move on a little bit. The comments, and I'll be pretty brief here, but basically the comments from the supervisors are people are happy with the program. They like the way it works. It's doing what they thought it was going to do. They like the people. They like the people who they recruited. Just one comment from one of the supervisors said, "We were lucky enough to recruit someone who would work hard and be willing to get her hands dirty. I can't say enough how much we appreciated her help and input." And basically that's the nature of the comments that we had. And for the volunteers' point of view, Teresa, if you would care to speak to that. I mean, what has being in this program done for you?
Well, okay. I would say it's really been a very positive experience for me for a number of reasons. So I could probably go on and on. So if I start to talk too much. So just from the very start, it happened in the middle of the COVID and, I had been kind of shut up in my house more or less. And then suddenly to have the opportunity to be working, really, it's volunteer, but there's that, that $1,500 is a big help for me. And then also the help is that I feel like I'm more attached to the working community. There is that thing when you're retired, and I've tried some part-time work, but for various reasons, I decided I would just be retired. But this is kind of nice because it's it's local, it's in town, and it's that nice blend of it feels kind of like volunteer, where they don't have a lot of expectations and demands the way they would on a paid job. It's different than a paid job, but at the same time, it has a lot of the plus things that go along with working a job for me. And it gives me a kind of a sense of purpose and so forth. I work at the reception desk at the Council on Aging on Friday afternoons. And the group has been really good. The team there, in terms of welcoming me and training me, I really enjoy it. So I'm not sure what else to say other than it's just been a very positive experience. I'm really grateful that that you all are trying out this program, and I hope it can continue. I think it's a really good program.
Cool. And
Thanks, Teresa.
Anybody have any questions for Teresa?
It sounds like from Teresa's experience, the program did exactly what it was intended to do, Joe, on both ends. Great.
Yep, I agree. Okay.
Thanks,
And then
Teresa.
the last, just the very last part of the report, volunteers, because of the way the program's set up, this year, volunteers can work a maximum of 111 hours in a couple of minutes. And basically we have one individual who sort of has reached that limit, of what she can work through the program, but then has chosen to work additional volunteer hours. So I don't think we start the program with the idea that we're going to make people work extra hours, but certainly, this lady in question has met her commitment, and for other reasons, other than money, she's chosen to continue to work, and I think that's pretty admirable.
Great.
Okay, that's basically all I have to say about the program.
So Joe, thank you very much for that update. That was a great report you put together. Is that something? Did I hear you say that you had provided that to JP or were going to?
No, I was going to provide it to JP and Jen Gallant, who's the treasurer who sort of keeps track of the hours. And it's only because JP had asked me if I could do something like that, put something together. So.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of hoping if JP has his hands on that, and again, we'd have to look into the issue of the privacy with the names, but I guess I was hoping that JP would take that one step further and share it with the whole city council.
Okay, I mean, I'm happy to tweak it for that purpose. So
yeah, and
it's pretty easy.
If you were to resend it to him again, I'd resend it with that request that he share it, because I think the whole city council should hear how positive this program is. And you detail that very, very well in that report.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Cindy, thank you. You're back. That's good. You're breathing and you're alive and well. So glad to see you back.
Thank you.
Which do you want to go to next?
Okay, so you did senior tax work off, and since I didn't participate in that, I just want to say thank you so much to all of the department heads and the senior tax work off employees who help Joe with that. And Joe, you went above and beyond with writing that report. Thank you so much. If that's an example of the work this board can do, I'm just so happy and grateful. Thank you.
It's the example of the work Joe can do, not the school.
Okay. All right. So let's see. So old business, Manchester Hardware, is that where we're at?
Yes.
Yep.
It's
Okay.
not on the agenda, but that's an old business item.
Yes. This board had been informed that there was a possibility that we would rent space in the city, particularly Manchester Hardware section, that was up for rent. That agreement did not come to pass. And I'm sorry, I'm distracted. There's an eagle flying outside my office. So we will be in the old post office for an unknown period of time until, anything else emerges. And so now we will turn our attention to what are the repairs, what is the IT, what are the capital, like what are the needs of the residents in terms of using this building, staff and using this building, and figure out what's next with DPW, IT, meet with the mayor about it, and then see how we can, in a healthful and safe and productive, efficient way, work in this building for however long we're here. So that's our new goal.
Great.
Any questions? Mayor is happy to come to another meeting, just couldn't come today to make this announcement herself. This was her decision. And so she's happy to address any questions.
Any questions of what I mean, I know in any lease arrangements, lease discussions, there are a lot of moving parts to that, and they don't always come to fruition based on where each party is. So it's totally understandable that this one did not come to pass. I don't even know how much detail the mayor would be at liberty to share, because a lot of those discussions tend to be private. But again, as Cindy said, the mayor is willing to come to a future meeting if there are questions, but I don't want to bring her to a meeting if there aren't any questions.
Right.
So Louise, you had your hand up.
Yeah. Is the rest of the deal going ahead, or did it all collapse? Sorry, that's a bit blunt. But...
Well, I don't know what you mean by rest of the deal, but CHD is the owner of the building. So I'm assuming that they will be looking to lease that building to someone else other than the Easthampton Council on Aging. But the ownership of the property did not fall through. It's my understanding CHD owns that building. I don't know if we lost Louise or not. If I didn't get that question answered, we can do that when we circle back. But any other questions on that? And as I think Cindy summed that up pretty good, is that the mayor always has her eye out, knowing that in a perfect world, the Easthampton Council on Aging would be looking for a newer, updated, state-of-the-art facility.
Okay, Louise is back.
Louise, did I answer your question?
Here.
Okay. So basically, CHD is the owner of the building, and it's a simple case of their desire to lease the building to the Easthampton Council on Aging did not work out. So they will look for another tenant, I assume.
Thank you.
But they are the current owners of the building. The sale of the building did not fall through, just the agreement to lease with the city of Easthampton. Okay, so I don't hear any pressing questions about that. I don't know. Cindy, you can relay that to the mayor. I don't know that there's a need for her to come to a meeting, but obviously she's invited anytime we have one.
Great.
Okay. Are we on to Easthampton neighbors?
And Easthampton neighbors, we're sorry for the delay. We started late because our Zoom link was messed up.
It's okay. We understand. I will start hoping I'm starting at the right place. My name is Sharon Tilby, and Joyce Sefchinsky is with me here today. Stan Diamond is on the board of Easthampton Neighbors also. So there's three of us here descending on you. And I believe, are most of you aware of what Easthampton Neighbors do? I think you probably are. I don't want to go over that again, but we, of course, are volunteer agents, volunteer organization that serves to help out our over 55 Easthampton neighbors by the services that we provide are anything from friendly visits to doing small tasks around the house, picking up prescriptions, driving people to their medical appointments, and the list goes on and on and on. And I think what we're here to talk about today is the fact that the Easthampton Council on Aging, you have a van that does drive clients or members to medical visits, but that van has a limited amount of time each day, like 10 to 3, or I don't know exactly what it is. And you were looking to see if Easthampton Neighbors could help out on both ends of that day. Am I correct?
So the interest of the community in the Easthampton Neighbors model is for many things, of course, transportation being just one of them. So just so before you arrived at this meeting, I mentioned that we're recruiting volunteers to help with the former volunteer positions of being companions to residents for driving, shopping, and those things. And we'll continue doing that, but we also want to partner with Easthampton Neighbors. And so we're trying to figure out how much energy should we put into our own volunteer program again, as we used to, especially now that we don't have funding for it that we used to have, compared to working with Easthampton Neighbors in some way to help you facilitate doing similar work with Easthampton's residents as a voluntary nonprofit group. So I think we wanted to hear from you, what are you ready to do? What can you do? What do you need from the Council on Aging in order to basically serve the same people doing some of the same activities, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And just to clarify, our transportation hours are flexible, but they do generally end by around 3 p.m., 2 p.m., but they can start as early as whenever someone has an early appointment, we can usually accommodate, but that's for, say, one person, that early appointment.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was on the phone with Joanne Churchill, who is our the call manager who does the most work. And she did indicate to me that she's having a hard time getting people to actually volunteer. She's not sure if it's had been the recent surge of the Omicron or what, which we are all hopeful is on the other end of the curve. But one thing that I could see this is if I could focus on driving, hey, I put a call out to our volunteers saying, kind of like jingle the cage. We have an opportunity to help Easthampton Council on Aging with some of their driving of folks to medical appointments. I would like to reinstigate your interest in driving, and that might provoke some people to step up again. We don't know exactly what the problem is. We have a bunch of volunteers and they do respond, but lately, the past couple of weeks, it's been kind of quiet with responses. So I think that would be a good opportunity for us to say, just to poke the bear and say, what's going on? Are you interested still? But I think I'd like to limit it to that because I'm not sure, before I find out how many people we can get to respond to driving, I don't want to promise our services for anything else. And I think everybody needs to realize too, folks that we service need to be Easthampton neighbor members, which is not a hard thing to do. That can be done by folks who just get on our website. They can sign themselves up, or they could call our number and we could help them sign up to be a member. And there's no fee or anything. It's just a matter of getting into our database.
The other thing is your own, like the receptionist or whatever, somebody at Easthampton Council on Aging can sign other people up. So it's real easy. So there's 3 main ways they can do that, which is easy for them to do, or have someone help them do it, or do it for them. Yeah.
And we would need to come up with a little cheat sheet on how to do that. But my many rambling words basically said, I think we can commit to recruiting volunteers to help drive for medical appointments, because I'm not sure that would be something overwhelming for us. But I'm just a little leery because right now, today, on February 15th, we're finding we're not getting a lot of response from our volunteers. It could be just a temporary midwinter blues thing. And that's what I'm hoping it is. I think if we can shake things up with something a little bit new, maybe that would work. That's not a promise, that's a hope.
Because in the past, the driving did include not just to medical appointments, but doing shopping. And of course it did include meal deliveries through the Council on Aging. So excuse me. Do I remember correctly from one of our earlier conversations that the cold box lunches that used to be provided, they are no longer being provided now, but will that happen again or no?
No, that will not happen.
Okay.
Unless, so Highland Valley Elder Services is providing hot meals through a curbside pickup that we distribute in Easthampton. And those meals cannot be transported by volunteers because they wouldn't be at the right temperature.
Yeah.
And they don't have any intention that we know of providing cold meals. I think that was a pandemic era emergency response.
Okay.
So the only thing that we could do to provide more meals would be to go back to the model of having Highland Valley cater a congregate on-site meal here, or hiring a meal site, coordinator and either having catering or providing the cooking ourselves. So the meal part is not a task for Easthampton neighbors at this time, unless there was another way to figure out that. And then of course, people can still sign up for those Meals on Wheels from Highland Valley. In this community, Highland Valley delivers those meals, not the Council on Aging.
Okay.
So
So
if I heard that correctly, Sharon said she was willing to sort of throw out a general request to see if there might be volunteers. And then if there are, Cindy, with the right place to be for Sharon to communicate that back to you.
Yeah.
So the issue for the senior center is that when people call us for a ride, we don't have a seamless integration with Easthampton neighbors. So we can't immediately search. So say Jane calls for a ride to Valley Medical in Easthampton in 2 days. We can't take them on the van for some reason, like say it's at 4 o'clock and we're done for the day. We could refer them to Easthampton neighbors. We could, but we can't guarantee that Easthampton neighbors will give them a ride. And so people have reported back to us that there's a little bit of a breakdown in that they can't get instant service from Easthampton Neighbors. There isn't a receptionist at Easthampton Neighbors. There's a system where, you know, they can leave a message and then get a call back. So I'm not sure of the speed of the service compared to where we have paid staff, of course, and we can respond with a yes or no sooner, maybe. Is there, what I'm trying to figure out is there a function to the Council on Aging having a volunteer driving force of volunteers, only in that we can maybe more quickly activate those volunteers to drive that person who has an appointment in 2 days than Easthampton Neighbors? I don't know. I'm new, so I don't really know how long it took to get a ride through our own volunteers versus Easthampton Neighbors. Can you, Joyce or Sharon, shed any light on maybe how far in advance people need to call if they have an appointment, or when they could expect a response to their message that they're leaving on your Google voicemail?
Right.
Under your suggestions, Cynthia, we did change and expand our voicemail message to let people know how they can, what they're supposed to do. Leave us a message, leave us when the best time to contact, etc. And I think Natasha said she put down, I haven't called them myself to listen to it, but I think she said it was, Sharon, was it 48 hours or 72 hours, something like that. I can give you an example of 2 rides that were requested. One, a person wanted or needed to have a ride up to Dartmouth, Hanover, at Hitchcock Hospital, and a ride back. And that's a full day commitment. And I will say that was quite a big ask. And the original message did not really say when there was a confirmation of when that appointment would be, but we have not had any takers on that because that's a huge ask.
Joyce, can I,
pardon me?
with the regard to that, the person will not make the appointment until the ride is secure.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it was left.
Yeah, so it was that kind. The other one was there's a woman who is having knee surgery, and it must be outpatient knee surgery because a short stay, because she asked to have a ride to be picked up from her initial surgery on at Cooley Dickinson, and then she had a series of pre-scheduled appointments for follow-up, and so that was responded to because we had advance notice and we're able to do that. So those are the kinds of things that we can serve best the community. And I think one time when you had mentioned you have some patients, you have members who are patients either for different treatments, even down in Springfield. And then when you have a list of these appointments, either for physical therapy or cancer treatments, etc., those are easy to schedule. I think we could handle those well. But no, it is true. People would have to be aware that we're not on call 24/7.
So just to follow this up, Joyce and Sharon, so if somebody has an appointment in 2 days, that won't work because it could take 2 days just to get the phone call back. I'm not criticizing, let's just like describe
right now, yes.
what it really is, so we can figure out what should we specialize in and what can you specialize in. So if it takes 48 to 72 hours to get a call back, really they should not call for a ride that takes place within the next, say, 3 or 4 days. They should be
That would be
asking,
ideal.
yeah, for like, say, the following week or even further out. So we can tell people who call us that if you call Easthampton Neighbors, you need to become a member, and you also need to call at least, let's just say, a week ahead of your ride. Would that be fair to say?
I think that's fair. I think you've got it. I think you understand that completely. I think a week out is reasonable.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's, and I will say, what we are doing is looking to improve that and shorten that time
Yeah.
by getting more call managers. So if any of you know anybody who would be interested in doing that and helping us on that, that will make the turnaround time, as long as you get the volunteers to respond, shorten our time, our lead time that we need. And what we are looking at is having the call manager not work a full day, but usually maybe 3 hours a day, and maybe 1 day a week or 2 days a week. And that will ease the crunch, and that will certainly increase the speed with which we can respond to our service calls. So again, if you know of anybody who would be interested in that, it won't be overbearing. It can be done at home. So we'd appreciate any leads you had.
So Cindy, that sounds like a good arrangement where if I have an appointment next Wednesday at Valley Medical at 4:30 in the afternoon, and I call the senior center, you could refer me to Easthampton Neighbors.
Yes, and I would do it, I would have our receptionist do that with care, so that, because people will easily get frustrated that they won't get a call back right away, like within 24 hours. So
Right.
I think that's the part to really communicate to the community in our messaging and your messaging. And I do have somebody who wants to volunteer for us from home who might be an excellent call manager for you. So I'll refer him over to you guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great.
So what else? So let's just say that going forward, and with the warmer weather, COVID backing down, then you having more volunteers, how can the Council on Aging support Easthampton neighbors in being effective with what you want to do? All the other, the other things, the fixing of the light bulbs and the helping people get stuff out of the trunk of their car, whatever all the other things are that you want to help people with. Because I know that Brendan Rogers had helped you form your group and had offered the Council on Aging for space, I think. I'm not,
That's true.
maybe copying. I don't know what we could offer at this time. We have to rethink what we're doing over here and improve some things in the building. But what would you be looking for going forward?
Well, the most basic would be, we would like more members. We would like more members in Easthampton Neighbors. And so, we would be happy to promote Easthampton Neighbors through whatever communication you have at Council on Aging. That would be number one. And of course, secondly, recruiting more volunteers. At this point, I do understand that you're kind of in a stalled state with space, and I don't even want to talk about that. I'm sorry that came about, but Joyce, at this point, I don't know what else I would ask of Council on Aging. If we could get some help by promoting our program to get more members and maybe some volunteers, that would be wonderful. I see a familiar name, Louise.
Louise?
Hi. Yeah, we have met before. I have a question. Do you have any sense of how many members you have, how it's been impacted by the pandemic, and how it's still being impacted now? If some of your volunteers are older members, then they're not exposing them back. Yeah, that's my question. Any sense of, yeah.
Well, we have currently, I think, 150 members of, and that started out when it first launched, I guess in 2020, right when COVID hit, all at the same time. There were 50. So we have increased threefold. And volunteers, I think you can answer that best, Sharon. I think what are they, 50 vetted volunteers? I don't recall.
It looks like we have 50 volunteers that have shown some activity in the last year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I do have some statistics because of grant writing that last year alone, all of our services, the number of services was 614. So, and thanks to the Council on Aging, we have 2 of the dividers, the plastic dividers for cars, you know, to separate the drivers from the rear, the back, so that there was protection for anyone who was driving anybody for a medical appointment, etc. And that's basically what the driving ended up being, was to medical appointments, either for COVID shots or just plain medical appointments. I use my husband as an example. He was able to do social visits for a while outside on the porch. And then when the cold weather came, it was phone calls. And yeah, so we were able to do quite a bit of stuff, which actually we're kind of proud of. Other places kind of had to shut down a lot of things. And so it was nice to see. So hopefully there's a dip in volunteer responses will pick up again. I guess once we become more active, I think all of you have seen a little more activity in our Facebook page, posting, reposting some of the things you've shown. So try to get the visibility out there. Louise, did that help you with the numbers?
Up to a point, but I think it's hard to know. I mean, have you asked volunteers, for example, and members what would make them feel better about using your services, you know, to see how much of it is pandemic and what sort of,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we can certainly do that. I plan to do a little bit more outreach by email with our volunteers. It's really been, I don't want to get off on this tangent, but I'm the volunteer coordinator and I don't even know a lot of the volunteers because I haven't seen them. I talked to some on the phone, but I wouldn't know them if I know you are. I know your name.
No, but you haven't, that's because we met before. You haven't seen me, and it's very much pandemic. And seriously, I was wondering from both sides, you know, I mean, I know a lot of people who simply are down to only essentials. And then there's other people who don't, I mean, there's some people who don't understand why the senior center isn't business as usual. But there's an awful lot of people I know who are keeping, you know, their exposure down to a minimum. And I just wondered how that was impacting.
I think you're absolutely right, Louise. I think there's a lot of people just sort of hunkering down and waiting this out.
Yeah.
And hoping for a great spring.
One thing I will mention too is, Louise, you mentioned it, and it's the idea of social isolation. And that was one of the main impetuses for the founders of Easthampton Neighbors, was to work toward minimizing that. And one of the things that came out of some of the social visits, especially as the pandemic hit, was there was a realization that there was an increase in our members who had cognitive impairment and some early signs of dementia. So we are looking to join the Pioneer Valley Memory Care Initiative. And they actually reached out to us last year, and we're getting poised to join them, which is it's under Dr. Starr from Cooley Dickinson Hospital. And so we're kind of excited and being able to do that. And Sharon, when is it? Maybe in June we'll start that.
Yeah.
And that involves, working with what they call a dyad of 2 people, which is the older adult with dementia, that caregiver, and one of our volunteers. And if you're curious about more about that, you could certainly Google it or contact Northampton Neighbors, who is a part of that. So we'd be the newest member to community to join that program. So they're excited to have us, and that'll be nice.
Hey, Tom. Hey,
Yes.
Tom, can I address that real quick?
Sure.
Just so you know, after you met with them, Joyce and Sharon, the Council on Aging met with them, the Pioneer Valley Memory Collaborative or Initiative, and they told us that you were joining. I'm not sure yet what we can do with them, but we're so pleased that you're working with them so that Easthampton has some involvement in that collaborative until, you know, such time as the senior center can join in and offer some type of programming through them. I think that we're publicizing how caregivers can get support. But so yes, we can publicize in our newsletter whatever you want us to publicize on our community page, which we have room for some months, sometimes not, just depending on how the newsletter has a finite length. So send along, if you could, monthly, like a very brief, I mean, we're talking like 2-sentence update on what's up, and we'll get it in there when we can. And then it sounds like, and have you already reached out? Well, we could talk another time about some other possible funding sources for you. And just so the community knows, I'm only just learning about this, but the Council on Aging used to get funds from Highland Valley Elder Services, federal Title III funds for the volunteer driving program, and it doesn't anymore. It got maybe like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year for that back at least 4 or 5 years ago. So that's, I think those funds were used not only for mileage. I'm not sure if they were also used for staffing. It's not a lot of money, but it is money that we don't have right now. So we can try to do some fundraising, look for other funds. But again, I want to be sensitive to the fact that you're doing similar work and we don't want to duplicate, because then there are things that only we can do that you can't do. So we should focus on those. So if going forward, it seems like we're duplicating in the area of providing medical rides, then we would want to, you know, work with you and make sure that we're not, I don't know how we would figure that out, but we should stay in touch. And then the last thing I wanted to say about this is, if there is software that would help with ride scheduling and for this community, no matter who does it, the Council on Aging, Easthampton Neighbors, or both, if there's a way that we can help make that happen, again, I wouldn't be sure of, you know, how to do it. I know there is really good ride software out there, so that the volunteers can just kind of put in what they're willing to do, and members can go and put in what they need, and connections can be made without so much need for staffing. And that is my signal that I should go soon, Tom, and finish the second half of my emergency. So I need to say goodbye.
Ready to wrap up.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Sharon and Joyce, thank you very much.
If before you go, you could just tell Louise as the minute taker, if you guys could just make sure you get into the minutes, like what is the essential next step, if any, for the Council on Aging from this conversation with the Easthampton Neighbors, that would be great. Thank you and goodbye, everybody. And I'll still be on because I'm hosting, and I'll turn off the recording when you're done. So I'll be back, but I'm turning off my video.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So real quick, Sharon and Joyce, is there a next step that we should get into? I know that Cindy offered the use of the COA newsletter. So if you can on a regular basis get her some little quips that she could put in, some months she will, some months she won't, but if you could just keep that rapid fire coming to her, I'm sure she could get something in there. And then I think the next step that we can get into the minutes, just so we have it a record, is that Cindy offered that maybe there's some kind of ongoing discussion / meeting with the Easthampton Neighbors and Cindy.
Yes.
just outside of a board meeting, if you will, to just keep that conversation going about how we sort of help each other.
Mhm. And I think our job will be to contact and tell you the results of contacting our volunteers.
Mhm.
And as we get a better response from them, to let you know that we're ready for our next step and we can increase our volume. And then, is it she or Louise? Which one mentioned that there may be someone they know who might be interested in helping us with as a call manager? To refer anybody to us, please, that could help us in any way. It doesn't have to be a board member. It can help us in any capacity. We'll find room. We'll
Stan?
find room.
Stan?
Yeah, Joe, maybe you could answer this. I wear multiple hats here in that I'm on the board of both of our organizations that are talking today, but I was also part of the Senior Tax Work-Off Committee group. And I was wondering, right now, the Senior Tax Work-Off program is only for city offices. Is there any possibility, any fringe possibility that, because Easthampton Neighbors is now trying to get some grant money to hire call managers. Is there any possibility that we might be able to qualify because of this relationship with the COA for a senior tax work-off position to become a call manager?
Would you like me to respond?
If you have a response.
I mean, I remember us bringing this up, you know, at a couple of meetings. It's certainly something we could look into. I can't give you an indication one way or another whether it would work or not, but certainly it's something we could look into probably in the next couple of months as we look at the next iteration of the program.
Okay.
Just a point of clarification, Stan is right. We are looking to have a paid staff member for the first time ever. And it'll be a part-time administrator, and that person will also be the coordinator for the Pioneer Valley Memory Care Initiative. So not call manager per se, but part of the administrative duties may include a short part of his or her time as managing some calls.
Sure.
We're looking at 15 hours a week. And when we budgeted the project out, and this is where our grant money is searching for to support this, we are paying them about between $20 and $25 an hour. So we're hoping we can find someone. And again, if you have any inkling of anybody who might enjoy that, who's at home and can do that, please pass it forward to us.
I would envision, Joyce, and I'm not sure, to go back to the point Joe made, that you know, someone in the city as part of this group, when it first started, the Senior Tax Work-Off, identified the positions that would quote unquote qualify. For the tax benefit. But if in fact we were able to get some assistance for Easthampton Neighbors under that program, I would envision it being a volunteer position that would assist your paid position.
That's good too.
Right.
Yeah.
So your paid position would be a permanent position you would have. This volunteer would come in to maybe help coordinate rides, coordinate calls, do what have you, but it would be over and above your regular scheduled work.
Paid person.
Exactly.
That would be wonderful. That would be nice. Thank you.
All right.
It sounds like they can, it sounds like they can provide the supervision, which some of our city departments are having, you know, that's the roadblock right now.
Right.
So that would be another selling point.
You all heard that a lot in business over the years. I'm so busy, I need more help, but I'm so busy, I don't have time to train new help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
All right,
Mhm.
thank you very much, Easthampton neighbors, for that update.
Thank you.
We're a little
Thank
bit
you.
beyond our time here, but we are only at an hour, so I'm going to ask for, or remind everyone that our next meeting is Tuesday, March 15th. And I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Joe moved, Chuck seconded. I'm not going to ask if there's any further discussion. All in favor? All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Thank you all
Aye.
very,
Aye.
very much for your time.
Aye.
And again, thank you, Easthampton neighbors, for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the
Thank you.
invitation.
Thanks.
I know.
Chuck, you have time for a quick call?
Sure.
Okay.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.